So somebody needs to move adoption of the agenda.
Can I have a motion adopting the agenda?
I can do that.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. Adoption of minutes of August 28th. May I have a motion?
I can make that motion.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second.
Okay.
You guys are gonna get tired of putting your hand up.
We've been practicing. Business arising from minutes. The purchase and installation of a new reservoir tank. Yes, that's been under consideration for a long time, hasn't it? And Bob, I guess, is going to give us a full report. IV, tank, and mixer pricing.
Okay, so the last time there was some confusion whether it's a 50,000 gallon tank or a 100,000 gallon tank. So if you go to page 6 of 23,
Back of the minutes there.
back of the minutes. So a 227 cubic meter tank, that's a 50,000 gallon tank. Just the price of the tank is 235,000. A 75,000 gallon tank is 250,000, and a 99,000 gallon tank is 265,000. Now that is just for the tank. That's not any of the prep work. So
Surprisingly inexpensive.
They're
Like
not
to
much
go up.
difference, yeah.
no, it doesn't go up. It goes in diameter. So
No, but the price, the
price.
difference between
Oh, yeah.
50,000 and 99,000 is $30,000, so
Yeah.
why wouldn't you go with the?
but it's all the base prep first. It depends on size, right? You don't have a big tall tank. You make it so if you can make
Wider.
it 5 feet diameter bigger, it's huge. So those are the prices that you asked for. That's just the tank. That's
Can you give us a ballpoint on the other costs?
yeah. So mixers, that PAX mixer. That's why I put the power up
No,
to.
but what about the pad, Bob?
Okay, just hang on. So the mixers, they're $15,000 a piece. You would need one for each tank, if you have, because your water's going to get stale if you use it.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is I won't go to a personal
So
opinion.
the mixer-
You can actually get E. coli if you don't mix the water.
we know.
So you're basically telling us we need a mixer.
Oh,
yeah.
I would never put a tank in, and in fact, I would like to put a mixer in.
What the heck, everybody?
Happy days.
They're cleaning
in
out
the-
their junk email.
In the existing tank, just because you don't get enough turnover in your existing tank. It goes down 2 feet and up 2 feet, so you don't get a real turnover of your tank as it is now, and it's easier to keep chlorine residuals and all that. Much easier that way.
How much does it cost to install? Well, that would come installed in the new tank, but you'd have to.
No. These you plug it into like 110 volts, and it just sits on the bottom of the tank.
Oh, you don't have to.
My guys would actually install it themselves.
How do you plug it in if it sits
So
there?
can I go back a step, Bob?
Yep.
In our budget, we had a provision for, I just wanted to understand, pre-design, reservoir upgrade pre-design.
Yep.
How does that relate to this right here?
Well, I had to get power. I have to get power to. So we sent out an RFQ,
Yeah,
and I think that was about $70,000 just to get the power up there and prep.
so that's an additional, so we need to understand what all of the costs
Yes.
of this would be, so there's a $70,000 cost for getting power up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've talked to Creus for if they engineered it. So if they do a land survey, they'd have to do a geotechnical work, the civil engineer to do it, grub out the site a little more, earthworks, then you have to do the piping to get the piping. So the price of the tank is just a tank, it's not any pipe work. And controls, and a couple valves and a little bit of water main and that. They've come up with a price of approximately $570,000.
What?
Over and above the cost of the tank.
No, the tank's included in that.
Okay, all right. Well, that's important for us to know, important for Raj to know, because he's got to make the money available. How are we doing, Raj?
We don't have the money available at this current time.
So the 570, Bob, because you said the pad would be different for the two sizes of tank.
Yes.
So is the
That-
570 the 90, 9,000 gallon tank or the 50?
Yes,
Okay,
the bigger tank.
and how
Well,
much? It
Sure,
would,
there's no doubt in the minds of anybody that lives in Tunstall Bay that we need a 90,000 gallon tank.
Well, Bob, how much is the difference? You know, how much extra? I mean, it's only, as Allison said, $30,000 more, which is fairly small. But how much extra is it to go from the, let's say, the 50,000 gallon tank to the 100 as far as
yeah, no, that's,
addition?
It
Is it
is.
that much?
No, it's not
No,
that
I
much.
don't think so.
No,
No.
but you're looking at a budget
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
450 and 550, say, or
So.
470 and 570.
470,
and that includes this $40,000 piping option too that's in there, so.
Well, you have to have that.
No, but that 570 is sort of all
Yeah.
in for the 100, for the
So-
big one.
Before we, can we go back another step, which I don't think we addressed in the last meeting? Can we have Bob talk about the adequacy of the current tank and its condition and expected lifetime at this current point in time, so that the committee can understand whether, you know, what the need is for a new tank, or do we not need a new tank for replacement at this time, or when we need it in the future?
So, right now, when you're well, you have to understand, it doesn't matter how big a tank you have, you can only put as much water as your wells will produce into the tank. So whether you have, the tank is a buffering. So if you have a 50,000 gallon tank or a 100,000 gallon tank, it's buffering. So the wells come on in the morning, the tank drops down a couple of feet, fills the tank back up. It's gonna do that whether it's 100,000 gallon or 50,000 gallon. The problem with a bigger tank is your water is gonna get stale. You need a good turnover. You shouldn't have water longer than 3 days in a reservoir. It should be turned over. The problem is if you have a great big tank, then that's not gonna happen unless you get the fire trucks to squirt water every day. You know, it just, as an engineering part, Public Works deals with potable water. We don't deal with firefighting. So most of the fires, a house fire, you'd be able to put it out with less than 50,000 gallons
We used 20, I think, on our.
on that big fire.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why. I think what should be done in Tunstall Bay is save your money, keep investing it until you have enough money to build a new tank. The other tank will last at least 10 more years. It's a concrete tank. It's not, unless we have an earthquake and the thing falls down, well, that's gonna be the least of our worries, is one tank. I think, in my opinion, as Public Works is, you should keep putting money into that tank until you can afford it, and then install a new tank. And have everything prepped so that you don't have to work 2 years. Like, with the electrical part, and it's sort of rubbed out now, that's good. You could go in there in 2 months and put a tank in. So that's my opinion, is that's the way it should be done. You shouldn't be putting a tank in now and just have it sit there and it's not gonna do anything for you guys.
Okay, this is the first time that I have heard that positive comment from you. Up until now, it's always been, we need a bigger tank.
No, that's not true.
Well, it certainly is from our point of view. I never heard you voice the opinion that that tank's good for another 10 years. I mean, that astonishes me. It's already 40 years old.
Yeah. I was up there today looking at it. It's just like, I say 10 years, in 5 years it might create a leak, might have a crack. Well, then all of a sudden, you know what? We have to put a liner in and fix it until we get a new tank. But I hate getting rid of a tank that there's nothing wrong with. It's like our pumps and our wells. I don't replace, everybody says, oh, you should get 5 years in a well pump. Well, I'm not gonna pull it out in 5 years and replace it. It might run 10 years. So I don't replace anything until it's broken, but you gotta be prepared to do it before it's broken, so it's not a surprise. But I wouldn't myself, I would save your money until it's ready to be, it's needed.
And your records show, because you've got a system that records the levels, and I was never able to get that on internet. Maybe you'd be good enough to tell us about that.
So, right now, we have the float setting at 15 feet. When it drops to 14 feet, it cycles back up. So the pumps only come on for that 1 foot of water.
And the tank's about 15 feet tall.
It's you can't go over 16 feet because then there's an overflow, even though the tank is 20 feet tall. So this is a week, so it cycles twice a day. So if you look, so this here, sorry, I'll show you. So,
We sat close to make it easy
You
for
want
you.
to come up here so you can see?
so what happens is, this is the pump. The pump runs to here, fills the tank up. It drops off. Oh, this is backwards, sorry. So what happens is pumps come on, fills the tank up. No, sorry. I gotta go to your side, sorry.
Okay.
I can't do this upside down.
Jerry, you better come down here and look at
Yeah, I don't need a picture. I get the,
So, the pump is off, right? Nothing's pumping. Pump comes on because the well, or the reservoir went down to 14 feet, right? Pump comes on, works its way up to 15 feet, pump shuts off. Goes down, has a rest while the water is going back down to 14 feet. Pump comes on again, fills the tank up. This must be in the middle of the night, so you see you're not using a lot of water. Pump comes back on, drops down. So that's the way, this is a week. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it only cycles like once a day right now. In the summer, it likely cycles 2 or 3 times a day. But it's only, you're only taking a foot out of the reservoir each day. Or in the summer,
what about in the summertime when it's peak demand?
it could do that. It could cycle up to 3 times a day.
What's the maximum peak demand or usage?
Well, I don't know that.
I mean, from,
I looked for the period between May and August this year. There was a daily usage on average of 17,500 gallons by the whole district.
yeah. So
17,500 gallons per
Per
day
day.
usage?
Yeah.
That is truly remarkable. The citizens of Tunstall Bay should be complimented because in prior years, when we weren't so, I guess, knowledgeable about having to conserve water, we were using 25, 30,000 gallons a day.
But even using that, you've still got enough buffer for the fire.
Well,
But you have to remember, if you use that 17,000 gallons, your wells are started too, so it's actually
Yeah.
helping it fill the reservoir. That's why you notice how it sort of drops down and up as the pump is pumping, because people will be using water as it's still filling the well, or filling the reservoir. So,
is it true that the pumper truck pumps 500 gallons a minute? That was the number that was given to me in the past.
The water.
Multiply that by 10 minutes, and we've got an empty tank.
Yeah.
You can do more than that if you really wanted to. If there's a big fire, you'd be flowing more than that.
We'd have an empty tank in 10 minutes. If there's a fire. We have to build for a worst case scenario. I understand what you're saying, Bob. It's a good economic argument, but we have to build for a worst case scenario.
But that's but Jerry, I guess that's why I was asking about the peak demand, because the fire underwriters will, if I'm understanding how they do it, they do peak demand and then add
You ran everything.
what you need for a house fire, so I think they add
Yeah, I guess we don't
20,000
do
to
that.
25,000 gallons. So you've got, with 20,000 gallons being peak demand plus 25, that gets you to 45, and you've got a 50,000 gallon tank.
As long as, that's fine, Allison, but during the summertime, especially with what's happening with the weather, more rain in the winter and drier in the summer. I do know at my summer place, we have over 10,000 gallons, and we also have to reserve, and there's about, four families on over 10,000 gallons. The fact of the matter is storage, and I realize, as Bob says, it has to be agitated to keep the water fresh, but if we have, and hope we don't, if we have a fire, as we've had small ones at Roger Curtis, and the way this weather cycle is going, and I hope it's isn't going to get worse, but all predictions is that it is going to get worse. The fact of the matter is, come July and August, in the Tunstall Bay area, it is a brown mess. Because everyone is, yes, conserving to the point, you know, be it, you don't use a pressure washer, you don't really use anything anymore. In fact, even the toilets in our house are held until the evening, but that's nuts. It's the fact of the matter, are we going to have more people on this island, and especially all that area? I say yes.
Sure.
Are we going to have more in Roger Curtis, which is not a part of Tunstall Bay, but damn it, they have storage water underneath, but nothing if a major fire. And
Using my own family as an example, we have never used municipal water on our flowers and gardens. We have extensive gardens. We've got a lot of flowers and plants and things that should be watered, and they're all watered with wash water from our laundry machine. And I sneak a little bit out of the creek before it dries up.
I've got about 6,000 gallons underneath the house for exactly that, or in case of a fire. But
so the citizens of Tunstall Bay have reacted to a problem, but I don't feel that that is quite the right way to go about this thing. We've got to build for the worst case scenario. And if there's a fire, the water is going to be taken from Tunstall Bay because it's
closest.
and convenient and things like that. We need additional water storage. I'm going to put a motion that Tunstall Bay, that the municipality act immediately towards, and at this stage I'm not sure whether it's an additional tank or a brand new tank. We haven't discussed putting another tank beside the existing tank.
Well, that's what this is, isn't it?
This would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're not gonna, you can't tear the one down and,
Yeah, that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. No,
You'd end up with
two tanks
two tanks, one existing one for 50 until it dies,
until it does, exactly.
and another one for 100.
So we've already got 50, and the additional tank that we have to purchase is the least expensive one.
But
No.
planning ahead, if you want more than 50,000 storage,
We do.
you're better to have one tank than two tanks, right, Bob? On going forward, or would it?
No, I
Would
personally,
it be
two
better to have
tanks.
two tanks?
Then you can
Okay.
shut one tank down and work on the other tank
So-
if you need repairs.
So put in 50, and then when the other tank dies,
Then you'd be,
then you replace it with another 50.
then the sensible thing is to put in the 100 now, not the 50.
But he's saying the 100
Yeah,
would
you're going to
probably,
keep the 50, but the fact of the matter is, and as Bob says, let's say it's 40 years old, let's say it's got another 20 years to go. Why would you spend the extra when you can put it, the difference between
Yeah.
a 50,000 gallon tank and a 100,000 tank is really peanuts. Put in the larger one now, and we keep, as Bob says, and I couldn't agree more, you don't rip down the 50,000 or the old tank until it goes. And it could be, as Bob says, 10 years, it could be 20 years. But the fact of the matter is the population is not going to go down. And the case of the climate change is here for us.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, now, the big question is, do we do it now or do we wait? And
so maybe we better
I
ask
think-
Raj how much money's in the kitty.
yeah, how much is the
That's
kitty
what I
now,
was just
right?
looking at right now, at a cost of about $550,000.
Yeah.
Each and your reserves,
Mhm.
each Tunstall Bay resident would have to put in $2,200 to make up the shortfall.
What,
In
so
order
how
to
do
be
you
able
borrow?
to fund that.
Yeah.
I would not recommend to council that we borrow to fund this, because it's just bad asset management practice to replace this tank. given it has a useful life of 10 years and it's meeting the capacity of the municipality, you're wanting to build for future capacity,
The
so
2,200, you're saying per a resident,
per resident,
but,
to make up the shortfall, and your reserves would be completely depleted. You would not have anything left in your reserve
In
funds,
the
it's just an
reserves.
estimate.
Bear in mind, we've been contributing to those reserves for 20 years, or a long, long time.
Yeah.
We've been contributing, everybody in Tulsa Bay knows that they pay $900 a year, or whatever it is. The cost of our water is only $700 or something, but it's less. And the extra goes towards the tank. We've been doing this for years and years and years. That's our anticipation, that's what we live for, so that.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're building up reserves for, Jerry, that's correct.
Yeah. So we've got 350,000 in the bank, I
But
understand.
you've got 267,000 as of the beginning of this year. At the end of the year, you should have approximately, I mean, well, after the power, I'll tell you right now, just a sec.
So you run the power line up there this year.
267 plus.
Right now, my signals and that are all on.
You should have approximately 250,000 at the end of this year.
And that's,
350, you said?
250,000, rough and dirty.
and that's including excess leftover and surplus and stuff, so that's the whole kit
That's the
and
whole,
caboodle.
yeah.
And that sum is constantly being added to at the rate of, how much?
About
per-
50, currently your projected contribution to reserves is about $50,000 a year.
So it
Okay.
would take 5 years to get that up to 500.
Okay. What you're telling me surprises me. I haven't got any financial statements in front of me, and I haven't done my homework, but I would argue that I thought we had 350,000 in a reserve fund. And the reserve fund was never identified as a water tank reserve fund, which was a mistake right from the outset, in my opinion. That was certainly the intention of the committee. It was a water tank reserve fund. Has some money been leaking out of that reserve fund for other things?
That reserve is used for the replacement of capital infrastructure, so everything that is collected for the reserve goes into the reserve, and any capital expenditures for the Tunstall Bay water system are funded out of that reserve.
So is wiring, is that capital or is that just maintenance?
That's capital.
That's capital is brand new.
Is it just
Or
replacement?
replacement, yeah, infrastructure replacement or additional capital.
Whether, the problem is whether it comes out of reserves or not, then your rates will. So if it takes out of operations, what'll happen is then your operations, your, how much you're putting into your water system, you don't put as much into capital then. So it's kind of like a shell game almost, isn't it? Like, it has to be paid for somehow.
I guess I'm hearing everybody here, and I just think that somewhat like a plan isn't a plan without a backup plan.
Yeah.
And right now our plan is a 40-year-old tank, and I just don't know if I want to put all my faith in that 4-year-old tank, because it's like you said, it could last, but it's still 40 years old, and if there's ever a fire, we're done. Like it's going to be depleted, and it's just I think I personally, and as a Tunstall resident, would feel a lot more confident with a new. And that would bring us back to the original capacity, right? Because the original capacity was
Yeah.
100,000, right? And,
No, it was never
it
100,000.
was 75.
well, it would bring it closer to the original capacity, which it was designed for in the first place.
Have we had an independent condition assessment done on
No.
the tank?
It's hard to do, we just did it. It cost us $5,000. And the engineers came and looked at it, and what's his name was out there from, Andrew was out there from Western
Webster.
Tank.
Oh, Western Tank and Lining.
Yeah, and looking at the line. And they look at it and they can tell you that it's still standing and there's no major crack. But I can show you the report they wrote 5 years ago, and
The same one.
it's basically,
I would think
yeah.
that those practices would have improved as municipalities
Well, the only way they could check
as
the concrete is
municipalities
drill
are
it.
increasing their asset management practices and looking for condition assessments on their assets, I would think that they have, I mean, I don't know, I haven't done that, Allison, but I would
Yeah.
think that their practices have improved and they can give you an estimated remaining life of your asset and tell you what type of condition
They'll
that
tell
that
you it's
asset's
still
in.
standing and there's no evidence of cracks and whatever.
Yeah, I think with the steel tank, it's much easier, because there's a bolted steel tank, they can look at the bolts, pull a bolt off and go, you know, it's rusting.
Yeah.
But with a concrete tank, the walls are this thick,
Yeah,
rather than, you'd have to core it,
okay,
Yeah.
and then,
yeah.
Yeah, they look at the state
Okay.
of the rebar and if there's any rusting and exposed on the outside and stuff like that, but it wasn't the definitive report that as accountants we would want to see. It's 40 years old and it's gonna live for another 10. You get the weasel words.
the weasel words.
I think I was halfway through a motion.
That the Tunstall Bay Committee recommends that the municipality act immediately toward,
Additional storage. The additional storage being an additional 50,000 gallon tank to build the,
50?
No,
No.
100,000.
an additional 50. We've already got 50.
No, additional 100,
That would give us 150,000.
that's right.
But I guess that's the numbers game if you,
Because the old tank has a lifetime, and it may be, as Bob said, 10 years, it could be 20 years, but the fact of the matter,
It's not gonna last
it's
forever.
not going to last for another, let's say 20 years.
Yeah.
But but the population isn't going to go down, and
Yeah,
With the
well,
new-
there's only, what, 6 vacant lots in Tunstall Bay?
yeah, but it's also, you look at that whole area, there is Roger Curtis. I mean, the fact of the matter, if there is a fire, yes, we have fire hydrants. I've got one behind me. I wonder how useful it really is. It doesn't sound like it, I mean, it's nice looking, but the fact of the matter is, how long would it last if we have a fire?
And to add to the argument,
Peter, are you talking about a house fire or a forest
I'm
fire?
saying either. A forest fire, of course, is the worst scenario.
Yeah.
And where more likely is Roger Curtis, just because of the density of the forest. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, let's face it, a house fire. It's very nice to have a hydrant, but in the summertime, good luck. You might as well write it off, and that's of course why we all have insurance. But no, I like James would, I would agree that we should go for the
Additional
large
100,000.
tank now. The difference in price is not that much, but the
Yeah,
fact
but-
of the matter is, do we do it now or do we wait for 5 years? And I'm like James, I think that's crazy.
we would gotta do it now.
I mean,
So then how are you gonna pay
So
for
I
it?
think that's the other question, the other thing I was gonna suggest was if you're gonna make a motion to replace it, your motion needs to recognize that you're approximately $250,000 to $300,000 short in
Okay.
funding within the
So there
utility to fund that.
Mhm.
So you need to make a recommendation on how that shortfall would be funded.
And your suggestion is that the users of Tunstall Bay pay an extra $2,200 or something like that,
Whatever it would work out to, yeah.
rather than borrow money?
I would not recommend that the municipality borrow money.
This is just, it's a little bit different from what we've been told the last couple of years, just so you know, right?
Well, the process is also quite lengthy in terms of borrowing, and it also, when you go and borrow money, I mean, I'd have to do a more fulsome report to council, but when you borrow money, it limits your ability to borrow for other projects, because you have a liability servicing limit, and municipalities can only borrow so much money, so this borrowing, even though it would be done within Tunstall Bay, it would impact the municipality's ability to borrow for other,
Sure.
um,
Doesn't look so good on the
other
balance sheet,
uses,
right.
so.
However,
Or snug cove.
yeah, that's right. We have 6 wells in Tunstall Bay. 2 of them produced.
Yeah.
Every time somebody up the hill above us, Sunnyside or whatever, drills another well, we lose water. We can't continue to exist under those conditions. We need more additional water. James and I have been out actually trotting through the bush, looking for another source of water. We think we found it, but we're not going to confuse the tank issue with that sort of discussion right now. Nobody can borrow for the municipality.
That being said, I mean, your recommendation is going to council, so if you wanted the municipality to borrow and fund through a borrowing, you can make that recommendation. Saying council's gonna come back and ask me whether I recommend the municipality borrow to fund this. I'd have to do some analysis and take a look at what basically condition, the tank is, what condition the tank is in from an asset management perspective, and what's in the best interest of the municipality. So my recommendation may endorse yours, it may not. That's all I'm telling you at the current, at present.
Is that lump sum earning any interest income?
It is, yes it is.
How much?
Pardon? It basically, we invest them in term deposits to earn the best possible interest. So interest rates are in the 1.5% to 2.5% interest range.
We can't borrow at that
So,
rate.
pardon?
We cannot
We
borrow.
cannot borrow at that rate, no.
Okay, we're
We
gonna
already read
ignore my motion for a moment. We're gonna discuss how I can finish off that motion, at what level. The discussion right now is between, do we encourage the municipality to install an extra 50,000 gallons or an extra 100,000 gallons? Seems to be a huge difference to me. 50,000 gallons, I think, is imperative, as soon as possible. All conditions are pointing to, we need additional water. Climate, source, etc., etc. We need more storage. Whether it's 50 or 100, I'm open to discussion on that. You've already told us the difference is how much?
30,000 gallons, $30,000 between the two.
Well, maybe 50 because you've got
Yeah,
the
you
site
can, you
prep.
can almost
Yeah.
double it by the
Yeah,
time you do
okay.
your pipe work and signals and stuff like that.
So if we go,
So it's only 10% though, it's 500 grand, 50 grand,
Yeah.
not a big difference.
yeah, except it puts it off for another period of time.
Well, but you
No.
still don't even have the money
We
for
still
a
don't have it
50,000
on the
gallon tank.
50,000, the difference.
Yeah, because a 50,000 tank
50,000 is 235,000 just for the tank itself.
plus
And then,
another 100 or 150.
Yeah.
plus, and the other one is 265, $30,000 more. This just doesn't make sense.
Like, I mean, I would support your motion, Jerry, for going for the newest 100, going down the route of the municipal loan, because I think we've been doing that for 3 years, we're going down that path, or maybe 5 years, it seems like. And then if that doesn't work out, then we'd look at an assessment, but I would think that would be our last resort, because I'm guessing some people might have a problem with 2,000.
All at once, yeah.
But the thing is your rates will have to go up to pay for that loan. The loan is not like, oh, we'll
Yeah.
pay it back later. So,
No, I just,
Yeah.
No, but the question, I guess, is asking everybody to cough up $2,200 right now versus spreading it out over
Spreading it.
5 or 10 years.
5 years.
Yeah. Which would have interest, and it's a small amount, I mean, not to catch you off guard, Raj, but we have in the past, when there's been 200 or 300, 200 or so thousand lent interfund. So municipal fund has lent, general fund surplus has lent to one of
I
the other
need-
funds, yeah.
We need to assess the attitude within our community. We all know that they think they want more water.
Well, do they
No.
want more water to use, or do they want more water to have available in case of a fire?
Fireplace.
Both,
For both.
yeah.
Just a plan to be redundant.
But if you put a price tag on it, which they haven't seen or heard of before, I don't know what the reaction is gonna be. So the $2,200 is gonna scare some people away.
So how many lots are there in Tunstall Bay?
So there are 144 properties, 16.
135 connections, I think, right?
144
There are
properties.
128 connected properties and
I'm
16
just trying to say, what would
unconnected.
be the maximum demand, and under our bylaw, you have to prove 220 gallons a day potable water to get a building permit, right? So what's 144 times 220 times 300, which gives you, if everybody used their maximum daily demand, just being devil's advocate.
Who's got the calculator?
I have one on my phone, but
What did you ask
So
for?
144 times 220, and
Yeah.
then that is 31,680. And then, what else did you want to talk?
no, that was,
That's it?
well, that's per day. So if all the houses were occupied and everybody used that 220, which is way higher than anybody even
Yeah.
generally uses anywhere, for average, yeah. And way higher, what was your average daily use?
17,000.
17,500.
Yeah. And your highest user in Tunstall Bay is?
I don't have the
Oh,
highest here.
okay, I was-
The Tunstall Bay
The pool.
Club.
The clubhouse.
Yeah, that's
Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Okay, other than the clubhouse, yeah,
It's only
The bad
high
pipe.
for 3 months of the year, and
It
then there's
always
nothing.
was, that's right.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the summertime is the time you're worried about.
That's right.
Yeah.
No question about it.
So that's interesting though, because if it was, 31,680, you said that's basically 5 days. If the power went out, or if
Well, the power goes out, you got
Or
batteries
is
to
that
back up, right?
oh,
Well,
water.
or
Run
the
the
generator.
pump. Yeah, generators, yeah.
If
So
the
what-
power went out, how many generators have you got?
About 7. And a couple big ones.
You can borrow one of mine if you want.
You
Well,
might need it, Jerry.
So would
Okay,
users be
we're,
provided by both tanks then, or just?
we've reached a stage where I think we have to go to the community now, give them some facts and figures. Could I ask the treasurer to write down for me what the facts and figures will be that I should present to the
I think
municipal?
you make motions to council, you can't, I don't think you can direct the,
You wanna ask them?
Ask council
direct
to
me
direct
to
staff
contact the
to-
community, you
yeah.
need to request that council ask me to do that.
Yeah, it goes to the motion for council.
Okay.
So it'd sort of be an information sheet that would go out, and then how would we want to gauge their
Yeah,
impact?
over 5 years or whatever.
Ask for a survey, or?
Yeah, I need some numbers to go on.
Yeah.
To write a report?
we're short 250 grand. That apparently
200.
approximately.
Approximately, yes.
So I mean, if you want 4% over 5 years, maybe 60 grand divided by 144. I don't know, that's 380 or something like that. $400 a year over 5 years.
Plus interest?
That's a
I
big
had that.
increase. Right now, they're paying
Nine.
900 on
Yeah, so
that.
it'll be 400 over 5 years each, or 2,200 one time.
Okay,
You see, and I think that was the conversation way back when about increasing the rates, and there wasn't an appetite to do that, 3 or 4 years ago, but you need to do that if you're gonna buy new capital projects.
yeah.
So I think your motion to council needs to be a two-part motion. Your first part of your motion should be that,
This is new
Council.
council, we can probably hoodwink
Right.
them.
One of those rooms.
We
The
can-
first part of your motion needs to be to council that council consider the acquisition of a $100,000 tank be
Yeah.
included in the 2018 budget process. Okay? The second part of your motion needs to deal with the funding. You can help me out, Allison, here. But, second part of your motion is that council direct staff to look into funding options look into funding
Options
options
to fund the
to fund the
$250,000
$250,000
shortfall.
shortfall.
And then you probably need
Yeah.
a third one, which is that council directs staff to draft a information circular.
That's provided they approve, so that would be a third step.
But a third motion that you
Third
want,
motion, if
wrapping it all
council
up.
approves the project, then they should direct staff
To prepare an information
prepare an
circular
information.
to
Yeah,
get the opinion of the Tunstall.
So
Bay
steps 1 and
residents.
2 will happen fairly soon.
But you might as well roll the information
Yeah.
motion in there too, so that you've got it all done. Or you want to
No,
come back
like,
to council with the
that would be,
funding option.
yeah, I mean, I basically wouldn't have time to do that as part of the 2019 budget process.
But in the 2018 budget process, we're gonna have to show the water system budget, so we could show the, and then the 5-year plan to show it carrying out, you're gonna have to crunch.
I could do that.
So the information circular would go out as part of the budget
Mhm.
review process in January, February. Or is it even possible to get it done in 2018? Should it be 2019 when the money would start flowing?
Yeah.
How long does it take to build these things, Bob?
It'll likely be 4 or 5 months to do.
So-
And what's been
Should be
going
part of
on
the
up there recently? There's been some work.
The electrical, remember many years ago, whoever built that, put the extension cord in the ground and run it up to the,
Oh, yeah, that's right, the neighbors have been enjoying that. haven't
Yeah.
they?
Yes.
so Hydro actually has to put a meter down at the bottom, that's all we're waiting for now. And then I can take all the instruments and everything off of solar and actually have electricity again.
So the solar,
Keeps the batteries charged and I run everything off of 12 volts, which then inverts it to 110 volts, which is not very,
So
That's
the
not a
other
good way to set it
question is the ongoing, that $15,000 tax mixers included in that price, I
Yeah.
would assume. So what is the ongoing maintenance and operation issues
Roughly per year.
with a 100,000 gallon tank? You're talking about stale water and,
yeah.
can you only fill it half full in the winter?
No,
time?
because the problem, you want a tank full all the time. You can't, because all it'll do is rust, all the chlorine in the water.
Right.
Well, yeah, so it's gonna be more work for the crews to deal with that. I'm not sure if we have to, like, there's been, some people have added tanks to other systems. So the guys have to go up there once a week and dose the tank to actually put more chlorine, because the chlorine will only stay in the water for so long. So they'll do samples, so, it's a couple hours every week, additional work.
what, and is this your experience from other,
Yeah.
what other tanks are there?
Yeah.
How
So
big are they?
Oh, I've got tanks,
A lot of the districts have lakes, don't they? We don't have a lake.
I don't know, but reservoirs and that, all the reservoirs, there's some that are like 75,000 gallon tanks, and then
Well, Hood Point's got, what,
50,000 gallon.
tank?
Kitzo's got 2.
Kate's Hill has 2 tanks, Valhalla has 1 big tank, King Edward Bay has a massive tank.
And it doesn't use enough water in the winter, you have to keep dosing that one?
That's right, so, yeah, we have to actually go up there and dose it. Same as Kate's Hill,
Yeah.
they go up and dose that too. So the chlorine, it doesn't get turned over enough. And it
What
just,
is, about the King Edward, what is that, 100,000 gallon tank?
500 cubic meters, right?
yeah.
So that's more than.
Oh, that's a 99,000, because that 450 is 99.
It's a, yeah, it's 100,000.
100,000.
Yeah. Or somewhere around that, yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
But the difference is King Edward Bay, how many people on it?
They have, you see, they supply water to Blue Water also.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So even though Blue Water buys water from King Edward Bay, you really don't want them to do that. But the problem is with only 40 houses,
Yeah, not
you can't just leave
Yeah,
it, so.
that's sized for future development.
Yeah.
And it was sized so it could service.
Where Tunstall Bay has
Water
what now?
needed.
Properties, 44.
144.
And 120-year connect, yeah,
And, yeah,
King Edward Bay has 40 and Blue Water has 159.
Yeah, something like that.
Blue Water has its own tank though, doesn't it, Bob?
They have a teeny little tank.
Do they?
It's,
Shouldn't be there.
yeah. Actually, the tank came from when the school was at the old folks home. They tore the tank apart and put it over there. So
It's probably on its last legs too.
I think it's like 18,000
We
gallons or
paid
something.
off that
It's really
30-year
teeny.
loan years ago.
So just back to the whole backup plan thing, I heard rumor that maybe with this Cross Island Trail, you're gonna be moving that whole Cove Bay, maybe putting like water lines going across the island to
No,
No.
connect all these systems? No, so that's not a backup plan then?
no.
Is that-
I've
That
never
was
heard of
probably
that.
wishful thinking for somebody on
Is
Adams
that on
Road.
Facebook?
That
That's actually just me starting that rumor, but.
we might as
No,
well
it
pull
might
from
be a
North
good
Bend
idea
too, right?
Right, well, it could be, it's a backup plan, right? It's something to feed it, just in case.
The amount of money it
Something
would cost you to put a water main from the Cove to Tunstall
Oh, from
Bay,
back to the
figured
lake.
out about $400, $350 to $400 a meter. So
Forget it.
10 kilometers, so that's, forget it.
Same price of a new tank.
Oh, yeah, really? $350 a meter times,
But you could divide that from other water systems too, right? If you're gonna pick up Bowen Bay's water
I'm
system
not
in there, you're gonna pick up King Edward Bay.
Good luck.
Well,
It's
we
a
don't-
backup plan,
But
so
Bob-
if that's out to lunch, then I think we go
But
with
we
Jerry's
have a
plan on
limited
the side of it.
license, I mean, we have a license
Yeah.
with the province for that, so I don't even know that that would be able to service everybody.
But I do know in 2004, 15 years ago, it was at that time discussed and approved to go with a new tank.
And that's
At least
probably-
those are the minutes that I
But
have
we
read.
built it, didn't we?
No, never.
in 2004, I think I ripped the old wood
The
stave
old wood
tank
stave.
down.
The old
Tank,
wood
yeah,
tank, no,
yeah.
that is when, you know,
That's
the
when the discussion
recommendation to do
started.
it. So
And
here
that's
we are.
when,
But this is Bowen, so it doesn't surprise me, but it's 15
Well, it's the
years.
money, yeah.
It is. I think we're living on borrowed time, I really do. All of a sudden, and I hear what Bob says, 10 years from now, it could be, and it could be 20.
Okay, I need something, we need something to go to the citizens in Tunstall
Yep.
Bay,
So, do you want me to read what I have?
please.
That the committee recommend the council consider the purchase of a 90,000 gallon water reservoir storage tank as part of the 2019 budget process.
It's a 450 cubic meter.
99, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say 90 or 99?
Said 90, didn't you?
I said 90.
Yeah.
it's not-
Go up to
yeah, go,
99.
always stick to meters, it's way easier, because people will
Yeah.
ask whether it's US or imperial gallons.
Well,
I'll go
they're-
for Imperial.
They're doing everything in meters these days anyhow.
And that the committee recommend the council direct staff to look into funding options to pay for the purchase and installation of the storage tank, and the council direct staff to write a communications piece to inform Tunstall Bay residents of possible funding options.
I like that.
Mhm.
But it also should be in there the amount that is already there, so I mean.
Well, that'll be picked up in the
That's
funding
not
option
for it.
report.
Yeah, because it's not that.
No.
Thank you. All right,
Is that your motion?
where do we go from there?
Does Jerry have to make that, is that Jerry's motion?
That's Jerry's motion.
Somebody's gotta second it.
I second your motion,
That's the
Jerry.
one I started 20 minutes ago.
I second your motion, Jerry.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Naysayers? Any?
Next item on the agenda.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's it.
I must admit, I'm pleasantly surprised how much, because remember last time, Bob, at the meeting, you thought it might be double. but
Yeah.
the,
I was surprised too
Yeah,
when I got
I'm
that.
really surprised that it is so.
Because I actually called him back and asked him, I
Are
go,
we adjourned?
this doesn't make sense to me. He goes, oh, well, you only
Well,
need
there's
2
nothing
extra
else.
panels.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just the
Yeah.
water
That's
mixer.
just.
That's just a mixer.
So are you putting that Paxton in the old one regardless? This year? Or something, that water mixer?
It depends, I have to look at it yet. To see how much money you have. I don't like to
You don't
spend
want to,
money.
you don't want to take any money out of the fund, no. Until it's done.
Raj, do you have any other information you wish to pass on to us?
At this time, no.
Okay. Just aside, when you send a letter out to water, Tunstall, the other directors. Chris didn't get back to you?
This is new.
Gay did,
They did?
yeah, she has a conflict today.
So when I see the heading TWSC LAC, it goes for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further business that would like to be discussed at this meeting? If there is not, I will call for a motion that we adjourn. Seconder, thank you. 11:30.
So how do you plug this fax thing in, Bob?
There's a wire that comes on